So it's not uncommon for a 100-mile running race to have half the runners drop out. 50% DNF rate. DNF being did not finish. It's when it's a running term for when a runner is unable to complete the race and has to drop out. I've noticed that I've identified 3 common perspectives that people have that I think are mistakes on DNF. I did not finish. I would say the first is the perspective that you should never DNF. You should always finish a race no matter what. Always push to the finish. I think that's a mistake because you need to be wise and not foolish. If there is an injury that popped up in the race, if it could be long-term or permanent damage being done to your body, then do the wise thing and drop out of the race. Live to run another day. Don't be in a cast. Don't make a stress fracture. So I think that's a mistake too, to have the perspective that you should never DNF. The second mistake that I see is this casual, nonchalant attitude towards DNF. Like some people will say, did nothing fatal, instead of DNF, did nothing fatal. I think that a runner, if you're going to call yourself an ultra runner, you should have a sense of urgency, and a strong desire to finish the race. And so that casual, nonchalant attitude toward DNF, I don't think that's the best attitude to have. The third mistake that I see with the way people look at DNF is they might say, if you've never DNF'd, then you've never truly challenged yourself. And I think that's silly because you may, in a 100-mile race, have 10 low points. And you may push yourself and persevere and rebound from those low points and make it to that finish. And that's what ultra running is all about. But then, and on the other hand, you might have someone that hits one low point and drops out, DNFs. And it doesn't mean that that person that dropped out challenged themselves more than the person that persevered through those 10 low points. So that's why that's a silly way to look at DNF as well. So I'd like to just briefly talk about my experience. I've made it through 8 100-mile races and the 150-mile race so far, and I have not had a DNF yet. And some of my races, like Burning River, the shirt that I'm wearing, I believe Javelin 100 may have had around like 50% DNF rate, so half the field dropped out. And Keys 100 might have been closer to 60% DNF rate. And the Skydive 150, there's only 10 people in that race, but I was one of only 2 finishers, so technically that's an 80% DNF rate in the Skydive 150-mile race. So I'd like to just share some of the strategies that have helped me persevere in these long 100 or 100-plus mile races to avoid a DNF. I think the biggest, most helpful strategy to avoid a DNF is to plan to take the full time commitment out on the course. If the race cutoff is 30 hours or 32 hours or 46 hours, mentally plan and prepare yourself to spend that much time out on the race course. In fact, tell your crew to plan to spend that much time out there. Make sure that they're on board with you, that they're not trying to get you to leave early because they want, because it's convenient for them. So the full-time commitment. Make a promise to yourself that I will not leave this race course until that time runs out. I did that from the beginning, and it's really served me well. Another thing, don't devalue a slow finish. Maybe you had a goal of being sub 20 hours in a 100-miler. Maybe you're not going to even get sub 24 hours. But a finish is still a finish. Finishing a 100-mile race is a worthwhile accomplishment. And even if it's not as fast as you want it to be, don't devalue the slow finish. I think the last thing that really has helped me not have a DNF is appreciation. Appreciation for the current level of fitness that I have, the mobility that I have, the the camaraderie of the other runners out there on the field, the appreciation for all the time and effort that went into putting into this race together, the volunteers that are out there at the aid stations, your crew, like your friends and family that are helping you, filling your water bottles, giving you food as you go, and the race director that organized the race. I think the best way to show your appreciation to everyone is to give your best effort, to not wimp out. And your best effort is usually all that it takes to finish. If you give your best effort, you can make it to that finish line and not DNF. So hopefully that this video will help you understand DNF and ultra running races. And hopefully maybe my advice will help you to complete your races, not DNF. So thanks.